I can relate to people. I was literally selling products out of the trunk of my car in Target parking lots in LA. So I understand the grind, if you will, and that just getting out there and not really knowing direction on what you're doing, but you're getting up every day trying to make something happen. So I get that piece of it, and I can really relate to people that are in those positions.
How's it going, guys? And welcome to another episode of Secrets to Silent Success. Today we have the one and only Vanessa Woods White of iDrive Business Consulting. How are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing great. Thanks so much for having me today.
Absolutely. So we'll jump right into it. Tell me a little bit about managing life when it comes to business, right? You talk about, working 9 to 5s, being in corporate America, or being entrepreneurs, while also being a wife, a mother, all of that good stuff. It's a lot of stress involved, right? So tell me a little bit about how you manage and some of your thoughts and mindsets around it.
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question there. Each day is different.
Sure.
So with that in mind, I take that approach. Every day I wake up, it's different. So I set the tone, in the day. I do my prayer in the morning, just kind of get my mindset right before I literally go out of the bedroom and conquer whatever is ahead of me that day. Sure. Whether it's clients, family obligations, wife obligations, whatever that may be. That's really, really how I approach every day.
Got you. So what does that routine look like? You say, hey, I get my mind right. Is that meditation? Is that reading? I know you mentioned prayer. Yes. What are some of those tactical things that you're doing to help you to help you tackle the day, if you will?
All of the above that you just mentioned.
Right.
I have my devotion in the morning. Yep. I spend about 15 minutes there. I am a routine coffee drinker. So that is part of the routine every day. Just, I don't know, something about it that just settles my spirit in the morning when I have my coffee. But it's really about that devotion of the day. I have several devotion books. So depending on which one I'm in for that week, I use the devotion of the day. I have my coffee, and I just sit there and I take in the word every morning.
Got you. To go a little bit granular on logistics of it all, mom, wife, entrepreneur, how do you time manage? I know for me, I'm like, I wish there was 26, 27 hours in a day, because 24 sometimes didn't feel like enough. How do you time manage to do everything at a high level?
I chunk times. So if I'm creating content, for instance, I know on Monday, that's from 12 to 3. And then, if I'm cooking dinner, I do a lot of meal prep during the week. So that really helps with meals. So I don't have to worry about cooking every day. So I do a lot of meal prep on Sundays and Wednesdays. Those are like my biggest meal prep days. And that really kind of gets us through the week. But it's really about chunking time and really not overwhelming myself, because I used to do that.
Got you. So let's talk a little bit about your transition. We can talk about transitioning from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship, but first let's talk about the moving transition, right? So you were on the West Coast, moved to Dallas about 5 years ago. Tell me about that transition.
Sure. Well, we initially moved here. My husband's job moved to the Dallas area.
Sure.
So of course I had to be here, right? I couldn't stay behind. So with that being said, it was an adjustment, quite frankly. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so that's all I knew.
Sure.
I didn't know anything different. So I really felt like a fish out of water when I got here. I had no connections. I didn't have, all my childhood friends were at home. I really had to force myself to immerse into the city and get to know people. So I started finding networking events on Eventbrite and things like that, so I can build relationships and create new networks, because this is where I'm going to be. Got you.
So doing that, talking about it sounds easy, but I know that it's extremely hard to step out of that comfort zone, to be uncomfortable, to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Talk to me a little bit about what you were thinking during that time. Hey, I've moved to a new city. I don't know anyone on my friends, family back home, but I need to get out there, right? Professionally. What is that mindset like, and what lets you to actually take that step and to get out there and network?
I'll be honest, the first 6 months was tough.
Sure.
Again, settling to a new home. We were newly married. I forgot to mention that. We were newly married. So there was a lot of new in my life. So, I had a routine at home. I get up, I go to work. I knew I was going to sit in traffic in LA. Here I didn't have that routine. So I literally had to create a routine every day. And that was tough. But again, it's a mindset shift. So me knowing that this is where I'm going to be, I need to get established. I need to get rooted. But it was tough. Those first 6 months was it was tough, but every day is a challenge, right, for me, during that first 6 months.
Sure.
But after a while, I started getting a rhythm. Again, I was making friends. I was creating professional collaborations and those connections. So it got a little easier over time. But those first 6 months, like I said, were tough.
Sure, sure. So thinking about someone who may be planted in a new environment, whether that's a college student going off to college, or whether that's, like you said, following your spouse to their new city where they're working, or hey, maybe you grew up in a small town, you want to move to a bigger city. A lot of people are moving from Texas to LA, right? The opposite. What advice would you give someone to, go through that transition? I know you said 6 months was tough for you, but what's some things that an individual can do to help ease that transition?
I would say look into things even before you get to the city.
Makes sense.
So, kind of finding out what's around, if there's some professional groups or networking events that you can even start to build some sort of contact with. So it's not so unfamiliar when you get started. I would say start mapping things out ahead of time. I didn't do a good job of that, which is why I felt like the fish out of water.
Sure.
So if you can do a little bit of that ahead of time, I think that'll make the transition a little bit smoother.
Got you. So
for
talking
sure.
about transitions, you also transitioned from 9 to 5 to business owner. Tell me a little bit about that transition and some of the first businesses that you had.
Yeah, sure. So I took my side hustle with me when I came here. So I was a professional human resources executive. That's what I did for 23 years before moving here. So that was a big change.
That's a big change.
So when I got here, we decided, and I say we because it was a joint decision with my husband and I, to take my side hustle and really create a true business out of it. One thing about Dallas is it is entrepreneurial spirited throughout the city. So as I began to meet people and tell them about what I was doing, they would, give me other resources, connect me with other people that could really help to drive the business.
Yep.
One of my key contacts I made very early on was she's now a friend, I can call her friend. She has connections with pop-up shops throughout the city.
Okay.
So I began to do the pop-up shops and the product sales took off from there. Yeah. So that's really kind of how that got going. So when that started looking great, I said, okay, maybe we can really do this, full time. And we took the leap of faith and we did it.
Got you. So tell me a little bit about your business, about your products, what you were doing, and about the pop-up shops, how you had success. And then tell me about the mindset of taking it from a side hustle to a full-fledged business, because most people never make that transition.
Oh, boy.
You kind of get stuck in the side hustle. So I want to get to there because that's the good part. But tell me a little bit about the business that you created when you first got here.
Yeah, so it's called Divine Perfection Body Care. It is all self-care products for men and women. So body care products that are vegan, cruelty-free, paraben-free. So everything from body scrubs to body butters, body wash. I've included a men's line since I've been here in Dallas. So
Awesome.
great beard grooming products, great soaps and shower gels for men too. So it is that and more. We've even branched out into apparel, journals, anything that can be included into a lifestyle of self-care. That's what we've created.
Sure. So before we go to the self-care portion, because that's huge, talking about that mindset shift from this is a side hustle to this is what I do full time. This is going to sustain me, sustain the family, sustain the bills, so on and so forth. How did that transition take place, and what was the mindset shift?
It's easier said than done.
Absolutely.
When people, things look great on social media and they look easy, and you see people saying they're bringing in these thousands of dollars
Be your
a
own
month.
boss, all that good stuff.
Be your own boss. But being your own boss comes with a cost.
Absolutely.
So I'm working probably harder now than ever, but it's different because it's something you're passionate about.
Sure.
And I think that goes along with the mindset piece. If it's something you truly believe in, something you really enjoy doing, and even do without getting a paycheck, to me, that's worth it. So that mindset really comes from I think my entire life, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've always had a desire to do more than what I was currently doing. So it's kind of been ingrained in me.
Sure.
I saw my mom take on some small entrepreneurial things growing up. So it's kind of always been in my face and I didn't realize it. So making the mindset shift wasn't so hard as kind of figuring out what was going to work to sustain the business. That's the harder part for me personally.
Yeah. So, and I know we're going to talk about the business consulting that you do, but I do have an interesting question in there. You said it felt like it was something that was natural to you, the entrepreneurial spirit. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
What is your your thoughts or advice to others who may get into entrepreneurship? Because that is the fancy or cool thing to do now, is to be your own boss, be your own, be all of the other stuff, right? But like you said, there's a lot that comes with it. You're working harder now as an entrepreneur than as a HR exec, right? That's your word, that's right. So what do you say to those who are getting into entrepreneurship? Maybe it isn't natural for them. What advice, what thoughts do you have for those type of individuals?
Get a mentor.
Gotcha.
Get someone that you can trust, you can bounce ideas off of, that will be truthful with you, reel you in when you're going too far. You know, if this is unfamiliar territory, if you will, have someone with you in that process. You know, I'm a firm believer that no successful person does it alone. They don't. So you need collaborations, you need relationships in order to succeed, especially in entrepreneurship. You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah. And how do you go about finding that mentor? Follow-up question.
You know, it could be as close as, you know, a family member, an uncle, aunt. I mean, look in your circle first. And if you can't find that, then you tap into networking events. You know, the power of networking, I think is unmeasurable, quite frankly. You know, when you look at Eventbrite, events, you know, online, you can find free entrepreneur things right under your nose. And you don't realize the access that we have nowadays to be able to connect with people that are like-minded. I know that's kind of a cliche term, but it's true. You need to be in rooms. You need to be in circles with people that are on the same mission as you. You might be doing something different, but knowing that you both are working towards a passion or something that you absolutely love to do, there's nothing like that synergy. Yeah.
I tell people a lot when I give advice about how to find a mentor, is to find individuals with commonalities, right? Hey, you went to the same college. You might have graduated 25 years before I did, but we went to the same college. Or hey, you know, my real estate mentor, the woman that helped us in real estate, was an older Black woman. Like, she's seen us we're her son's age.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so when she's imparting wisdom into us, she sees her son as she's imparting wisdom into us. So is there any, I know you talked about synergy, but talk about maybe how you found your mentors and some of your mentors.
You know, I have 2 mentors, and I've had both of them for the last 20 some odd years.
Wow.
And they helped to groom my career in human resources. So when I grew up in the company, I worked for a very successful hotel company. You know, they actually saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
That's important.
So those were people that tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, do you want to come work for me? That mentor I just talked to 2 weeks ago, literally. Awesome. Over 20 years. And they're more than mentors. They're friends now and family, because we have gone through things together. But these were 2 people that I actually worked for. And, you know, it just kind of naturally happened that they helped to groom my career. So I was very blessed in that way, that I had people that saw something in me that I hadn't realized yet in myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Also, you can't be what you can't see, and sometimes you can't be what you don't know.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't know what you don't know, but somebody can show you, like, hey, it's all about coaching, right? Which we'll get to. We'll get to, right? So before we get to the coaching part of things, self-care. It's huge, especially in today's turbulent times, whether you're talking about social injustice, whether you're talking about the economy, or you're just talking about the demands of work-life balance, right? Having self-care is important. So talk to me a little bit about how you got into the self-care industry, if you will, and the importance of self-care.
By accident. So let me tell you what happened. You know, I was practicing self-care, if you will, before it became trendy. I'm talking, this was, you know, mid-90s. And I was a single mom, busy, trying to grow that career. And I was coming home and I was literally exhausted every day, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of it. But I knew that my daughter deserved a great mom. You know, and motherhood was probably the best job I ever had, by the way. But, you know, I had to get myself together when I came home, because it was showtime for her. You know, she hadn't seen me all day. So my routine was give mommy 10 minutes, and I would go in the bathroom and just kind of regroup, pray, get myself together. So when I opened that door, I could be the best mom for her when I, you know, walked out. So my bathroom became my tranquil space. Little did I know, you know, those long showers, those baths, the weekends she was away with her dad, those were my times for self-care. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I just knew I needed a minute to get myself together. But that's how it happened. That's how it started. And I started making candles just kind of as a hobby, and it grew from there. That was the very first product I ever made, was candles.
So you talked about starting off with those candles. You have moved over everything now to even having apparel.
Yes.
So tell me about having a product-based business, because that's a totally different monster than having a service-based business, right? With inventory and things of that nature. So what are some of the things or advice you would give to others who are trying to get into a product-based business?
You know, probably the biggest lesson I learned, you know, I built my business out of necessity,
Sure.
right? Needed extra money. I did what I thought was best. I did what I thought people wanted. I would recommend find out what people want.
Sure. Focus group.
Do your market research.
Yep.
That way, when you're launching a product, you know that you're reaching the right people.
Sure.
I didn't have a target customer then. I didn't have, you know, the ideal person in mind. I was just trying to move product and make some money to pay some bills.
Sure, sure.
You know, but if you're starting out now, my recommendation, do your market research. Find out what exactly people are going to need and or want. What problem can you solve for people? That's the biggest thing, because if you're just throwing something together or throwing it out there, you don't really know what's going to work and what's not. And then you don't want to go through the feeling of defeat,
Yep.
get discouraged because whatever you did didn't work.
Sure.
So do the market research up front. It will save you so much time, money, energy, stress, and everything on the back end.
Yeah. So tell me two things. How do you do that market research? What are some of your steps and keys to doing that market research? And then part two of the question, I can ask it again if we forget about it. You talked about you started your business out of necessity, right? It's a really powerful thing to have leverage when you don't have to have a business out of necessity. So we'll talk about that second. But first, how do you do that market research?
You know, what I currently do now, lessons learned,
Sure.
right? You know, I find out now that I have my ideal customer, number one, who is that? Who are you trying to sell to?
Yep.
What are the things that trigger them? What makes them tick? Where are they hanging out? What are they currently buying? You know, really drawing up, if you will, this ideal person to create the product that will support their needs, their problems, if you will,
Sure.
and create something that will make a difference to them. Because at the end of the day, you can sell whatever you want, but if it's not impacting people, then it's all for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, you don't have a business till you have someone to pay you for what you do.
Absolutely.
or what you make.
Yep.
Right. So you got to make sure that what you're doing or what you're making is appealing to them. It doesn't matter about your fancy business plan, your website, your business cards. If you're not making something that someone wants, it's all, you know, in vain, if you will.
Absolutely.
I think something that you said was really powerful. The idea that when you started your business, you did it out of necessity. For me as well. I started the business and I needed to make a check that week to pay the rent that week as well, right? But I also feel that for inspiring entrepreneurs, if you have that leverage to be able to have a 9-to-5 and to be able to start that side hustle, to be able to get your ideal client, because a lot of times you get bad clients because you need the money, right? And it starts to kind of have a snowball effect. So tell me a little bit about how aspiring entrepreneurs can build that leverage to be able to have the ability to get that ideal client and they're not fishing and taking whatever they can get.
Yeah, I think, you know, you said something key too. If you've got the 9-to-5,
Yep.
I encourage people, don't leave your 9-to-5 right away. You know, get things under your belt, find out who it is that you're targeting, and leverage it that way. So
Sure.
if you still have your 9-to-5, I know we hear so much, you know, walk away from your 9-to-5. I am not an advocate of that, not right away, at least. I think you need to make sure you've got the foundation set, kind of some things tested out. I'm a firm believer of testing things out, testing a concept, testing an idea before fully launching it ahead. Because again, you don't want to do it all for nothing, only to be discouraged and feeling defeated later.
Sure, sure. And I know everybody's situation is unique and different, but is there some, you know, foundation keys to know when you're ready to leave that 9-to-5? Is it a certain amount you should have in your savings? Should it be, hey, your business needs to be grossing what you make at your company a month? What is just some, I know it varies, right? It varies.
Does.
But what are some ideas that to know, okay, maybe I am ready to make that transition? Because some people will get analysis by paralysis and never leave the 9-to-5, which could be as detrimental as leaving too soon, right? So what are some things that people would know, hey, maybe it is time to make that transition?
Yep, and you're right. It will vary, especially depending on the type of business you have, the ticket price of your business, because you could sell one thing at $5,000. You triple that 2-3 times in a month, then you might be okay. But again, it goes back to that testing. You know, is this something that can be sold over and over? Is this something that people will buy over and over, you know, spend with you over and over? So I think you've got to create a model and test it out to see how many of these do I need to sell per month to make X, Y, and Z? So getting those numbers and having an idea of that up front, I think will give you a true idea of when it's okay to walk away.
Yeah.
When you can pay your bills comfortably. Now, no one's ever going to be in an ideal situation, right?
Sure.
Because entrepreneurship is ongoing. But I think you've really got to have the foundation set. And if you've got support behind that, that's even better. But I say never walk away blindly from your 9 to 5 until you know that you can sell your product and or service over and over.
Got you. I guess insight, but also advice for those entrepreneurs who, okay, I've left the 9 to 5. I'm in entrepreneurship. One of the first things I learned about entrepreneurship is the volatility of the income you get every month. Yes. You may make $15,000 in month 1 and like $15 in month 2. And for some people, that's jarring because you're used to a consistent paycheck. Yeah. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs for dealing with that volatility and the amount of income you may bring in from month to month?
Passive income is real.
Okay.
So
it is.
if you can do other things that don't require you to be so present in those, yep, to where you can still kind of wake up to some money. Maybe it's not extra, $5,000 every day, but you're getting $100 here, $100 there. Those are things to me that in the long run will help you stay afloat in the business. So if you can find ways to create passive income, whether that's, you're doing KDP books on Amazon or, affiliate links with other product lines, whatever that may be, those are great ways to bring in extra income while you're working your business.
Yeah, the multiple
due
streams
to that
of income.
Volatility, sure.
Yeah, multiple streams of income. Got it. So let's go ahead and switch gears to the iDrive business, right? All right? So tell me a little bit about how it got started. What are you doing and how are you helping people?
It happened by accident.
Everything happens by accident.
It does, but it doesn't.
Absolutely.
So, I've been coaching people
sure,
for 20 some odd years in some capacity, whether I'm coaching you through your career from A, B, and C.
Sure.
I'm coaching you through a conflict resolution issue at work.
Yep.
So I've been coaching forever. But how iDrive came about was people began to see the growth in my product-based business, and they wanted to know how I was doing it.
Sure.
So, they would pick my brain. They would, hey, Vanessa, you got a minute? I just want to ask you a couple questions. I want to pick your brain. And these were initially people that I knew. So, classmates, neighbors, whoever it may be, just kind of wanted to get some questions answered. So I was giving away free gems all day because coaching wasn't on my radar at that time. But it was truly at the height of the pandemic in 2020 when people were starting to start businesses and realizing they needed other forms of income is when the real questions started coming. I said, okay, it's time to monetize on these things. So I initially started, I do one-on-one coaching, which I find so gratifying because I can really be more impactful with people and see them from point A to point B with the transformation. But that's really how it started. So, it was just really people wanted to pick my brain, and I just started monetizing it, honestly.
Got you, yeah. And talk to me a little bit about that monetization. A lot of entrepreneurs, they have a lot of gems and a lot of wisdom. And like you said, hey, I'm just, returning good karma. I'll take a dinner with you and give you some insight on how to, run your business or start your business. You don't understand. You have a monetizable asset right there. So how did you transition is the key word of the day, right? How did you make that transition to going from, hey, I'm just giving friends, former colleagues, ex-classmates advice to monetizing it into a coaching business?
True. Market research, number one. I wanted to, kind of see what other people were doing. I started, lurking around on people's social media pages. Sure. What were they charging? How were they attracting people? What were they saying the results were? Kind of playing it off of that, if you will, and kind of using that as inspiration to build my own and set pricing and things like that. But it got real when those same people that I gave free information to came back again, and now there was a price tag on it.
Sure.
It got real. So people were like, wait a minute, I just talked to you last month and it wasn't that. Well, I had to explain to people, I am now transitioned. This is now a business. Yes, I gave you all that for free, but moving forward, the price is the price. And those are tough conversations to have. And some people were fine with it and many weren't. And that showed me who my customer was and who they weren't.
Sure. So talk to me about that. I know you're big on that, not doing free work. And for entrepreneurs, it just kind of happens sometimes. You end up doing a free project, didn't even know you were doing a free project. So tell me about how to not get caught up in doing that free work, if you will.
Yep. And don't get me wrong, free is not always bad.
Sure.
Sometimes free is needed to get to something bigger.
Absolutely.
Right? So free is not always bad. So I don't want, to put this stigma out about free, but really transitioning from that free is about the language. It's about the verbiage. It's about your presence, and showing that this is now a legitimate business and not just me and you going out for coffee and I'm going to give you this information. So you have to position yourself in that way. And that can be hard if you're not really sure how to do that. And that's why I say market research. See what other people are doing, how they're, attracting people, and use that as inspiration, but always be you in that process. But get the ideas, get the inspiration. Don't go recreate the wheel if you don't have to. Put your own spin on it, your own sauce. I'm real big on that. But it's out there already. What you want to do is already out there. People are doing it. You just have to now create your lane and your way to do it.
Got you. So I know one thing that was interesting. You talked about attracting clients, attracting customers. How are you attracting customers when it comes to marketing, advertising, things of that nature?
Yeah, I use several forms actually. Instagram is probably one of my biggest ways. So I do Instagram lives, I do, reels, snippets of video on tips and how-tos. So really showing the value of why someone would want to work with me and the transformation that I can offer them in their business. So it's really about putting the value out. Consistently, number one. But I use other avenues like Chamber of Commerce meetings, networking events. I'm starting to work with small brick and mortars here in the Dallas area as well. So it's really about putting yourself in the right places, whether that be social media or physical rooms. But you've got to show up. And you got to show up consistently.
You have to show up. You have to create your luck, if you will. When it comes to creating content, a lot of people get discouraged early on because, you put out that video and 4 people watch it, or you put out that podcast and no one listens to it. How do you keep the mindset, or how do you keep the motivation to put out content consistently, even when some may not gain traction at first?
You listen to people. You seek feedback. I poll my audience all the time. Awesome. So I use my Instagram stories, actual polls in my newsletters that I send out. So I'm constantly getting data. I might not use it right away, but I'm constantly getting data. That way I know what to put in front of people. They told me they want that, right?
Yeah.
Through the poll, they told me what they want. So you have to listen, and then you deliver accordingly. And that's how you keep people interested. In terms of like keeping it exciting and fun, I'm a little silly sometimes on my Instagram. I do like to have fun. When it's time to get down to business, I get down to business. But I think infusing who you are in your brand and throughout that messaging is huge. And that's what people connect to at the end of the day. So I'm going to always be me. Always be me.
Absolutely. And I know one thing I'd asked earlier was, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to find their way, if you will? You said, hey, mentoring. I think coaching is another way to do that. What would you say to someone who may be apprehensive about coaching, right? Is this price tag going to be worth it? Is there ROI behind the price tag for the coaching? It's a very abstract product, if you will, right? It's not tangible. So what would you say to someone who may be apprehensive about stepping into, getting a coach for their business?
I would say find the right coach for you. And that's through that connection that I'm talking about. So, and look at what they're doing and how they're doing it. Are they delivering results? They talk about social proof and having the receipts. And sometimes coaches in the beginning, they don't have the receipts other than maybe what they've been able to do for themselves. So I think paying close attention to how people move, and if you can see the authenticity in there, which can be hard because social media is just flooded with activity and things. But I say gravitate to people that are speaking the same language as you, that kind of tug at your heart. Maybe when they mention something, every person is not for me. I'm not there to serve everyone. I'm there to serve the right people that are willing to partake in what I offer and that trust me, right? So I want people that come to me that will actually trust me. So I say, if you're looking for a coach, make sure you can trust that person to deliver and help you through your process.
Got you. So when it comes to coaching, again, I know it varies. Everyone's different, but is there some common trends or some common stumbling blocks that you are seeing across your clients, if you will? And what are some things, obviously not giving too much free game, but what are some things that you can do to implement to overcome some of those trends that you may be seeing across the board, if you will?
Yeah, I think with me, the type of client that I typically attract, they kind of fall into two buckets. They're entrepreneurs that have been in business a couple years now and they're stuck. They're not making money, or at least not consistently, and or the brand new entrepreneur that's completely lost and they have no idea where to start.
Where to start.
So I get those two buckets, and I address both of those needs differently, right? Which is the great thing about one-on-one coaching is that I can customize it in that way. But I think what really attracts people to me and those stumbling blocks that they may be able to get over is I've shown the growth. I'm very transparent about my story.
Sure.
I can relate to people. I was literally selling products out of the trunk of my car in Target parking lots in LA. So I understand the grind, if you will, and that just getting out there and not really knowing direction on what you're doing, but you're getting up every day trying to make something happen. So I get that piece of it, and I can really relate to people that are in those positions. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So you talked about, knowing that grind, selling products out of your trunk, but you had a recent Instagram post that said like hard work isn't enough. You got to have those strategies. So talk to me about those strategies. I read a post one time that was like, hey, you can grind your way to 6 figures. You can't grind your way to 7 figures, right? You got to have the strategies. You got to have the systems. You got to have the processes. Talk to me, again, word is transition. Talk to me about that transition from just grind it out to building an actual business with processes and strategies.
Yeah. It's key. You've got to know what you're shooting for.
Yep.
So whether it's a weekly goal, a monthly goal, a quarterly goal, you've got to set the numbers because you can't measure what you don't put into place to measure, right? So I think setting the goals, knowing exactly the targets you're trying to shoot towards is really, really key. Otherwise, you're just getting up every day and you don't know what you're shooting for. You're just out there. You can't just be out there when you're trying to grow a business. You have to have a plan. And that plan may change sometimes, right? So you have the strategy, you work on the strategy, but maybe it's not coming to fruition as quickly as you would like. So you have to be flexible enough to adjust. But I think starting, you have to have a target, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly. What exactly are you shooting towards? And then how are you going to get there? Is it working? Is it not working? Do I need to adjust? And if so, it's okay to adjust. It's all about the trial and error.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell, again, aspiring entrepreneurs, reverse engineer it. If you are going full-time an entrepreneur, well, you need to know how much your rent, how much the car note, how much the insurance, how much your products. And okay, well, you need to make at least this to break even. Well, how much do you want to make, or how much are you making at your 9 to 5? Add that to your break even, and then that's how much you got to make this month, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But I would ask you, how are you helping to set realistic goals? How are you helping people, or what are you telling people to set those goals monthly, quarterly, yearly, and so forth?
One of the things I do in it's a coaching program I call Rev Up Your Revenue. And this one is designed for the entrepreneur that's stuck. So we're going to look at their marketing strategies, see what they're doing, what can we tweak. So I literally walk them through from start to finish on how to plan a marketing campaign to launch. And in that planning, we determine what that goal is, right? Whether it's a monetary goal or how many units you're trying to sell, but what is that goal? And then we build the plan around that. So how many people need to see this product? What does your conversion rate need to look like on your Shopify store? So we build that into the planning tool so we know exactly what it is that we're shooting for with that campaign. That's just an example.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like a MBA working over there.
Yeah, it can be sometimes. It feels that way, but I try to simplify it for people. One of the things I do provide them is the planning tool during that session. And this is a tool they can use over and over and again. So every time they launch, they refer to this tool, and this helps them to plan it out from start to finish. So they know the strategy, they can measure it, see if it worked, and if it didn't, they can always go back and say, well, maybe I should have done more of this and or less of that. So it is literally a tool for them to start and finish that campaign.
Awesome. That makes sense. So you talked about, hey, you have these strategies. You talked about KDP a little bit earlier. So I know you have an ebook. Tell me a little bit about your ebook.
Yeah, the ebook is called Market to Manifest. And how that came about was everyone is not ready to go and have a coaching session. And or, if you're a new entrepreneur, you don't always have the money to do that, quite frankly. So I created a digital guide that can really help them with targeting customers, how to get the product out, how to retain getting customers. It's one thing to get them, but how do you keep them so you have reoccurring revenue, keep them coming back?
Yep.
And then, you know, we talked about social media and how tough that could be to come up with content ideas. So it has a content calendar in there so they can recycle content if they need to, but it's 30 days of content ideas to kind of take away that stress and that overwhelming feeling of what am I going to post about today?
A little bit of a playbook.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a playbook, exactly. And it's full of resources, how-tos, timing on when to do things. So it's a pretty comprehensive ebook.
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it is.
Awesome.
It's very helpful. And I put it together based off experience.
Sure.
These are things that I know are tried and true because I've done them. And that's how I built my product business.
Awesome, awesome. So you talked about the market to manifest, I drive business. What's next for Vanessa?
Oh, wow. What is it next? No, I'm a big dreamer.
Awesome.
But one of the things I am working on is the mentorship program.
Okay.
What I am finding with my clients is they want more.
Okay.
And they don't want just the one-off in one-on-one coaching session. They want, Vanessa, how can we work together again? So I know the appetite is there for people to want to spend more time with me and have
listening, like you said.
Yes,
earlier. Yep.
listening and have even much more of a transformation. So I will be launching the mentorship program very soon, where they can sign up for the mentorship program, where we're going to have, you know, live planning sessions together as a group, planning marketing strategies together, really create a community within this mentorship program. So it's not just me and them, but they're surrounded with other entrepreneurs, and again, having that synergy.
Gotcha. So this is called The Secrets of Silent Success. So what is Vanessa's secret to success?
Oh my goodness. Prayer. I'm a prayer woman. And I can't live without it, quite frankly.
Sure.
It is my relationship with the Almighty that has gotten me through so many hard times in life. You know, I've been around the block a couple times, so I've been through some things, whether it's through parenting or just life in general, career changes, job loss. I've been through it all, but He has sustained me through it all, and that is really, really my secret to success.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll leave it right there. Thank you again for coming out. Awesome. Look forward to the ebook. Look forward to the mentorship program, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Not a problem. Appreciate it.